Hello, Bible readers. So, rapture. Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again twice. The book of Daniel said there would be a desolation after 70 weeks, but because Jesus was crucified, the prophetic stopwatch was forced to pause. And it still says, the made-up theological invention that is rapture. The moment rapture happens is the moment the stopwatch starts back up. Then the final week, 7 days, that really means 7 years, I guess. And even though Revelation makes no reference to 7 years of tribulation, Revelation does use the number 7 a lot. And Revelation uses the word tribulation a lot, mostly to describe the hard lives suffered by first century Christians. But see, this is how made up stuff seems like it may be onto something. Like it maybe touches the truth. The words are familiar. The words are biblical in that the words are in the Bible. But the claim that there will be 7 years of tribulation, that is not biblical. Here's another example. Revelation 11:2 says, "Do not measure the court outside the temple. It is given over to the nations, and they will trample over the holy city for 42 months. And then chapter 11, verse 3 says, "And I will grant my 2 witnesses to prophesy for 1,246 days, wearing sackcloth." Add those days and months up, and you get almost 7 years. But the Reverend Dr. Rossing says, but if chapter 11 of Revelation supposedly spells out the 7 years of tribulation, it is striking that not one of the 3 crucial words, 7 years or tribulation, is found in Revelation 11. Why not make the 7-year calendar explicit? Only by rewriting Revelation for their own purposes can dispensationalists claim to find 7 years of tribulation in this book. And that leads into a section she writes on, it's called Fictionalizing Revelation. The Left Behind books and movies are the most obvious, most recent examples of fictionalizing Revelation. And I'll let you read Rossing's book if you really want the details of her movie reviews. They are scathing, but I think it's important for me to share this question that she asks. Can it be that God so loved the world that God sent World War III? Like, does that seem to fit with the God whom we know? In the dispensationalist timeline, rapture will only happen. God will only start that prophetic stopwatch back up when some essential things have fallen into place. Okay? And a lot of it is violent, and it's a lot that I'm about to list off for you. But I want you to understand what some say Revelation is saying, especially if faithful Christians don't do the work of proclaiming God's truth and love and mercy and grace in response to what some say Revelation is saying. Okay, so here's kind of the order of what has to happen in the rapture theology. The nation of Israel must be in existence. The rapture can then happen. An evil antichrist emerges. Notice that Revelation never uses the word antichrist, but whatever. The antichrist will sign a 7-year peace treaty with Israel, but will break it 3.5 years in. This is very specific. The temple in Jerusalem will be rebuilt, and animal sacrifices will resume. The Antichrist will then desecrate the temple. Then comes the other 3.5 years of tribulation. Jesus returns again exactly 7 years after the rapture. So I should have said Jesus returns again, 7 years after the rapture, beginning with his touchdown on the Mount of Olives, which will break in 2. After the Battle of Armageddon, Jesus wins, of course. He sets up his throne from the throne of David in Jerusalem for 1,000 years over a kingdom repopulated by converted Jews and unraptured people who had been left behind. After that comes the last judgment, then eternity, God's new Jerusalem. And know this, the first step in that list sounded pretty simple, that the nation of Israel must exist. But Christ cannot return again until the Temple Mount is cleared of the Dome of the Rock and replaced with a new Jewish temple. See, that's right. It's not just that maps say Israel exists or that Israel sends a delegation to the Olympics. That's not what counts. Israel exists means that the Temple Mount, the most contested land on earth, has to be ready to receive Jesus in a Jewish temple. Not a Muslim holy place, of course, which is what is there now. Why does that temple have to be there? Why does that temple have to be on the Dome of the Rock to receive Jesus? So that that temple can then be desecrated by the Antichrist 3.5 years later, halfway through the 7-year period of tribulation. I am not kidding. So this actually affects the United States foreign policy from time to time, depending on the administration, favoring extremist Israeli efforts to take more of Jerusalem because these dispensationalists think maybe that's what's going to get them closer, Israel, to reclaiming the whole Dome of the Rock, make it the temple, the third temple, so that Christ can come again. And here's the last thing I'll say of this detailed timeline and plot of the 7 years tribulation. And this is real. Remember the part where I said the temple will be rebuilt and animal sacrifices will resume? Well, the problem with this is that the book of Numbers says the only way for a priest to do the work of animal sacrifice is to be cleansed from human death, which all humans are polluted with. And for them to do that, they have to sprinkle themselves with ashes from a pure red heifer. The problem? No red heifer has been born since 70 AD, almost 2,000 years now. American evangelical cattle breeders, I again am not kidding, eagerly try to breed a pure red heifer, but have so far been unsuccessful. Rapture isn't just a misreading of Revelation. It's dangerous to the Middle East. It pushes Muslims out of their holy places like the Dome of the Rock. It pushes Palestinian Christians out of their ancient homes, all so that Israel can fully exist. But exist for what again? As one Jewish leader said, these dispensationalists don't love real Jewish people. They love us as characters in their play. If you listen to the drama they're describing, essentially it's a 5-act play where the Jews disappear in the 4th act. Yep. During those 7 years of tribulation, by the way, what do you think the people who were raptured are doing? They're just watching. They're watching all the violence, all the blood, all the destruction. They've made this escape to sit in the rafters of heaven and watch their Jesus warrior go to war. And that would be against family members who weren't raptured, friends, neighbors, community people that they lived with, and they'd just be watching Jesus slaughter them. It's hard to wrap my mind around. The rapture is a racket. In place of healing for the world, it proclaims escape for individuals from the world. In place of Jesus' peacemaking, the rapture glorifies violence and war. It's not a biblical theology. The Bible never says we will be raptured off the earth, nor God. God created the world, loves it, and promises to never leave it behind. Now, I know I threw a lot at you, but what I hope is that instead of coming to Revelation thinking there might be some secret codes for how we can all get off this rock, this planet with these despicable people, I hope you become open to a letter urging God's people to lean into this place, into this planet, with these people whom God loves, and so we can love too. Tomorrow, next post I should say, we're going in. Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. Baby steps. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.